This episode of the Managing Madrid podcast is brought to you by Hotel Ritz Madrid. If you're in Madrid and you need a place to stay, you're catching a Real Madrid game, you're here to check out the Bernabeu Museum, immerse yourself in the Madrid culture, whatever. If you're in Madrid, make Hotel Ritz your go-to because these guys are unbelievable. They hooked us up and the Managing Madrid crew as we continue our Real Madrid coverage in Madrid. Amazing rooms, right in Atocha, right in the heart of the city, walking distance from all the attractions, easy access to the Bernabeu from here, amazing food, amazing staff, amazing everything. Check them out, Hotel Ritz Madrid. Make sure these guys are your go-to when you're in Madrid. Okay, without further ado, this is the latest edition of the Managing Madrid podcast with myself, Kiyan, Marvin, and Gabe Lesra. Let's go.
Hello and welcome. It's your weekend Managing Madrid podcast. This is your host, Gabe Lesra, and I'm joined from sunny Spain by a very exhausted Kiyan Sobani. Kiyan, how's it going?
I'm doing well. It's like minus 10 in Canada right now. In comparison, it's like nice and you just kind of bask in the sunshine. But I've been inside all day just sipping on an espresso and I'm exhausted. And but then I looked at the podcast questions we have, and I kind of gave me like a little boost of energy because there's some fun questions in tonight's pod, and I'm excited to answer them.
Yeah, I agree. And we're also joined by superstar Indian journalist Marvin. I'm sorry, I had to do that. Welcome to the show, Indian journalist living in Virginia. All right.
Marvin, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited to answer this first question, which is like 5 pages long with subsections and a bunch of narration. So that should be interesting.
Yeah, it is. And we're going to cut it down a little bit, but there's a lot of internal monologuing going on. I think we're a little bit of Shay's sounding board, which is fine. That's great. And we'll try to do our best to convey the message that Shay has here. But yeah, I think before we go in, 2 pieces of news. Shout out to ex-Real Madrid, great, wonderful player, Kaka, who has announced that he is retiring. He rules, Kaka rules, and we wish him well. His tenure with Madrid wasn't quite what I think we all would have wanted it to be, but it also was certainly entertaining and exciting.
I've gone through many, we all have. We've growing up watching the sport. We've watched all these greats growing up, and we witnessed declines in different footballers. I don't know if, apart from Raul, I'm not sure if there was any other kind of player decline that kind of hurt me the most. Kaka's decline was really sharp.
Yeah, and it was related to the series of injuries that he had at Milan before he even made it to Madrid.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we had signed the most expensive player in the world at the time, but we also had signed a player who even at the end of his Milan career, he wasn't, he kind of looked like he had lost a step. But still, like he started his Real Madrid career well. Like I remember clearly.
Yeah.
If you compare him and Cristiano Ronaldo when they were first signed, Kaka was just on fire. He was flying, and Ronaldo was struggling to integrate in the team. It was the first time Ronaldo, because it was kind of like put into this influx of superstars at the time who were, almost as big as he was. And I think, Ronaldo struggled a bit more than Kaka did to start with. And obviously Ronaldo's a unicorn. He turned around and he became Ronaldo, and Kaka just fell off a cliff. But he had injuries to go through. Ozil came, and eventually Kaka just got phased out. But that kind of hurt me the most because I really like Kaka. I really like him as a person. I liked him as a player. Stylistically, aesthetically, he was just fantastic to watch in his peak. The way he would dribble and run past players so effortlessly and like outpace players. Fun player, nothing but well wishes for him. Just awesome.
And he had that great right-footed shot from outside the area that I thought was just it is one of the more beautiful shots that in football sort of generally that I remember growing up with. Mm-hmm. And that period at Milan, he really was incredible. And obviously, he was the most recent non-Cristiano or Messi player to win the Ballon d'Or.
I think what summarizes like Kaka's greatness, and for a Real Madrid fan, is the fact that Kaka was the only player that prime Ronaldo would pass to at every single opportunity. I mean, Ronaldo even let him take penalties, and there was like no whining or anything. Like, he happily let Kaka take penalties, and he would always look to pass to Kaka. It's like Ronaldo saw him as an equal, and I don't think he's ever looked at another player who played on Real Madrid like that. And I think that's just, that's one of the biggest compliments right there, considering how Ronaldo regards himself and his own level of play.
My only thing to nitpick with him was because he was too good of a person. I remember in an El Clasico brawl, I think it was one where Ozil and David Villa got into it, and Ozil got a red card, and he pushed like a bunch of players along the way, and there was a huge brawl. If you look at every single player on the team plus the bench, everyone's into it, just scramming, trying to like defend the team and break it up, and Kaka's just in the corner like hugging Dani Alves, and
right.
I took exception with that. I wanted Kaka to get in there and gloves off.
Yeah, dude, that is I remember that brawl, man, because the reason that Ozil, there was this shit going around that David Villa has insulted Ozil's religion and all this shit, and I don't really remember exactly what happened. I remember being infuriated about that brawl. Especially because that period in Madrid's history, Madrid was not beating Barcelona very much, and some of these games would get it'd be really close, or it'd be a draw, and then Madrid would end up having this huge fight where everyone got red cards and everyone would get thrown out, and then Barcelona would win. So it was I kind of get not engaging, except for the fact that my understanding was that David Villa had insulted Ozil's religion.
Kaka did make up for it though by throwing the ball at Xavi's head.
Kaka was a gamer, man.
That was a subtle little lob, oops, I didn't mean to do it because I'm such a good person, but inside it was he knew what he was doing.
Even Xavi can bring the worst out of a person like Kaka. I mean, that just shows how much of a dickhead Xavi is.
Shout out to another player in the news today, Antoinne Greizmann, for posting a hilariously racist blackface image of himself, and then not taking it down forever. And then it's a huge publicity thing. It's amazing. I think the only reason I'm bringing this up is that I think it's really funny that at this period in time, right, it's very much that Antoinne Greizmann is being seduced by Barcelona, and so if you would end up, of course, he's preparing to be Luis Suarez's teammate, folks. That's what that was about.
But he is a fan of the Globetrotters, so it's
so it's all right, guys. He knows black people. He has black friends. He's
he does have black friends, as this guy on Twitter reminded me when I made fun of him. He was like, his best friend is Paul Pogba, so he can't be racist. Yeah, man, that's how it works. So good point. And let's get into Madrid a little bit, because over the weekend, Madrid won the Club World Cup by beating Gremio 1-0 in what was, I think, one of the easiest 1-0 games I've ever watched. Madrid didn't score as much as they probably should have, but they also were incredibly solid at the back, and I didn't feel like Gremio ever threatened at any point. Hard to take tons out of this game, but is there any overarching message that you think Madrid fans should take from this?
I think the overarching message is that Real Madrid took this seriously, and they didn't take the semifinal seriously. And what I mean by that is not it's the fact that when you look at the game against Al Jazira and you look at the way they defended that, it was so clear that they had no respect and no trust or any faith in the counterattacking ability of Al Jazira. The way their high line, the way they committed their body sword, the way they were crazy lucky not to concede a second goal, just because they had no one defending, and not even the central midfielders. A team with Kovacic, Casemiro, and Modric. Or was it Kroos in that game? I can't remember now. No, it was Modric, right? It was Kovacic, Casemiro, and Modric. All three of those players are elite two-way players. There's no way that Real Madrid should suffer in transition the way they did in that game. It was a schematic thing that they decided that Al Jazira wasn't going to punish them, so they just didn't defend. Obviously, they decided to do the opposite of that against Gremio. And, you know, for a team who was supposed to give us a lot more problems than Al Jazeera did, they just couldn't. They were clearly inferior tactically, technically to us. And when Real Madrid took it seriously, you know, Gremio just really didn't have a chance. It was a comfortable 1-0 win, even though the scoreline looked like as if it might have been a tight game. To me, it wasn't. Although Gremio did defend okay, you know, they were compact, decently compact, but the same players who just didn't mark in against Al Jazeera and had no coverage for the fullbacks, like Casemiro and Modric, were really good in this game.
I have a question about the Club World Cup final, and like you know how I talked about like before, like I misinformed our listeners about like Jesus Vallejo not being in the squad.
No, I think it turns out you were pretty right about
Yeah, there was a video, right, of him like asking Infantino, the FIFA president, for like a medal, and he was trying to explain to him that even like I wasn't in the squad or something, but can you still give me the medal? And then Bale's like, it's all right, child, just take the medal and walk on.
Yeah.
So wait, like I'm confused about that. Like, so was he in the squad or was he not?
He was in this squad, but wasn't registered to play, as far as I understand.
That makes no sense.
I know. I don't get it. So that's why the whole thing was confused, because we were getting mixed signals whether he's in the squad or not. He was technically in the squad. Apparently, I don't know what kind of system prevents him from being registered. I have no idea. Maybe there was a quota on players who register. I don't know how it works, but I thought it was cute that he was trying to explain it to Infantino and say, hey, look,
just grab a medal. Good God, man.
What is it with Real Madrid and having all these weird registration problems? Jesus Christ, man.
Oh, no. It's embarrassing. Also, who cares what the FIFA people say? They suck. Like, fucking take the medal and go on. Like, damn.
It just shows like he's just like a nice kid.
Just a kid. He's just a nice kid, but like, you know, he's not, you know, burdened by the anger and hatred I have towards FIFA. So
if I was Bale, I would have just stood there and watched it, see how far it would have went on, just for the shits and giggles. Just because I feel like there was so much confusion in that conversation that if he had not intervened, and Infantino just would have stood there looking at him like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Why are you telling me all this?"
Infantino had that like smile and look on his face, like he was trying to pretend he understood what was happening, but he had no idea.
It was like a pretend smile and nod.
Yeah, dude, it's the foreigner in a different country nod. Like, you just go into a party and someone starts yelling at you in a language you barely understand. You smile and nod, man. Smile and nod. But the problem is that I felt like Infantino was sitting there being like, what? Is this guy offering me a bribe? Like, they already won the game. But yeah, so Madrid won. Ronaldo's goal, the difference. I mean, good to see him tie Pelé's record for goals in a Club World Cup. Hopefully by the end of his career, he will be able to surpass it, which would require Madrid winning another Champions League, going back to it. But it's definitely not out of the question.
Am I the only one who has struggled my whole life in keeping up with Ronaldo's records? It's impossible to, like, every day you check the news, he's broken a record, and I don't understand. Like, some of them what is this record? Like, how, at some point, there's no more records to break, because.
Right. And then some of them, they just become creating esoteric and stupid records. Like, oh, Ronaldo breaks the record, first person to score in every group match from the Champions League. It's like, oh my God, so? Like, that is a record? Like, why do we care about that? I never understood. That one is like, it happened this year and everyone started talking about it. It's like, that's not a record. Like, I mean, fine, but like,
it's pretty cool that one. But I think when he scored against Al Jazeera, everyone was like, "Oh, he's now the all-time scorer in the Club World Cup," and I was like, "Okay, great." And then I saw after this one, he's tied Pelé after scoring another one, and now it turns out it's because it's since the first record was when the competition changed its name or something, and now this one is like its history. Like, just tell us when the record is broken. Like, don't.
I mean, there was one point, I think like the 2012-13 season, where I had like a Word document and I was trying to like collect all of Ronaldo's records, and like there was a point where I memorized like a good deal of them. But then in 2013-14, when he like broke the Champions League record, he broke the group stage record, I just gave up. I'm like, what is even the point, right? Like, the beauty of it is like you can't remember all these records, and you can like spend like hours and hours on Google, and there'll still be records that like Ronaldo's broken that you'll never know about. I mean, that's just greatness.
I remember in like 2006 World Cup, I can't remember which World Cup I'm thinking of, but I think this one is like the announcers go nuts after like the first goal of the World Cup. And the reason they're going nuts because like, oh, and this guy has become the first person in history to score the World Cup opening goal on his birthday. It's like, this is fucking inanity. Like just like the Club World Cup record, I get it. Like that's a competition and you want to have some sort of historical relationship. But like some of these are just so dumb. Like, I don't know.
I feel like we're also pointing in sports that we really try to invent these records. Like there was like a stat the other day, like in the NBA, it was like Kyle Lowry is the first person to get like 26 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists for any player under the height of 6 foot whatever wearing.
Oh, in basketball they do it a lot. Like there'll be like a certain number of rebounds coupled with like an average number of points or something, and it's like if you were to look at the big picture, it's like it's impressive, but like it's not like record breaking impressive. Like when you look at it, like basketball does this a lot.
So does baseball. I mean, we just are obsessed with it. And I think when we're getting back to like Real Madrid and Ronaldo, Evan said this recently to me. Like we were talking about the Ballon d'Or and the fact that Madrid, Ronaldo and Messi have just won for the last decade every single Ballon d'Or. And people keep posting these stupid, shitty takes about this competition. And Evan's theory is like, well, at this point, we've kind of run out of shit to say about these guys. Like literally like, how much more can you say about Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi? So you're going to invent like stupid new records or like some like make an argument like, well, Ronaldo shouldn't have won the Ballon d'Or even though his team won the double and whatever, because he's like too rude or whatever. I can't remember exactly what the dude said, but he's like, yeah, I think it's rude because he cares more about the Ballon d'Or than his team success.
And it's like embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for him that like he seems to care more about it like than team success itself. Which
it doesn't like the best thing about that though is like it doesn't matter if he thinks that because like he is still winning with his team. Like it's such a stupid critique of Ronaldo because it's like it would make sense if Real Madrid wasn't doing the goddamn double and winning back-to-back Champions Leagues. Like I mean
it's also like blatantly untrue, but like even if it wasn't, like it doesn't fucking matter, right? It's just like it's just like you're mad Ronaldo won and you don't like Ronaldo, like
right.
And it has nothing to.
I'm really surprised though in general, like of how many professional journalists have been sharing these opinions like this, and like really like top of the line journalists who say this, and then also like when I was watching the Barca game today, I don't remember which channel it was now. It's obviously one of these English speaking channels, but. When Messi was getting his golden shoe, I guess he didn't hold it that long and he gave it back pretty quickly. And the commentator was like,
"My God!"
He said, "See how Messi didn't really hold on to it for long, and he gave it away right away to focus on the game. We know of another star who would have liked to hold on to it a little bit longer." And I thought I was hearing things, but this was like a real take.
It has to be that they just don't have anything else to say because it's such a stupid, boring take.
There's like pictures which go around, right, which shows like Ronaldo, like I think in like 15, 16, or like one of the seasons where he won his like 4th or 5th Ballon d'Or, and he was standing. There's a picture of him standing by himself and holding it up at the Bernabeu, and then there's a picture of Messi when he won his 4th, like standing with his teammates, and they're like, oh, the difference between Messi and Ronaldo, except there's like a picture of them doing the opposite as well. It's like what the fuck are you trying to do, guys? Like I don't even understand anymore. Like it's just so petty and ridiculous, and it's like and like Kiyan said, like these are like world renowned journalists and commentators that will like make these kind of comments, and it's just like it just betrays like this pettiness and like personally unprofessionalism. Like I just don't understand it. I really don't get it.
Let's talk. Well, I mean, I don't know. Do you guys have much to say about this match? I mean, like, yeah, Madrid, I think, performed the way you would expect them in finals. They took it seriously, and they took their opponent seriously. I mean, I guess we could talk a little bit about the finishing, which has been, again, a topic, but I just don't.
Yeah, I just want to say that, like, it's not some. This is not a match where, like, anyone should spend their time dissecting and trying to take something away from this, right? Like, I mean, in terms of, like, just forget like the fact that this is like an official tournament. This was essentially like 2 friendlies that we played in, right? In terms of like the quality of the opponent we faced, and like also kind of the reason we didn't care in the semifinals is because of that, right? And and we cared a little more in the final because we're like, all right, this is a final. But we could have done any number of things. Like we could have played with like, I don't know, 2 defenders and like 5 forwards, and he probably still could have come away with the win. Like, so I don't know, like if it's a good idea for anyone to sit down and be like, well, I don't know, Benzema didn't score here, or like Sergio Ramos like missed a tackle here. Like it's not going to benefit your analysis.
It's not going to benefit your analysis unless you're the Benzema can't score a goal guy who has been fucking DMing me every day with that exact line, especially after these 2 matches where Benzema, hit the post and all that shit. So, shout out, kudos to that guy. I mean, like this was great timing for you. So, so I'm down to just kind of jump into questions because I don't have that much more to say about this match. I think it's very interesting how vast the gulf in class is between European teams now and the South American sides. A gulf of class that wasn't really as big when I was growing up. Like I think the Intercontinental Cup was a much more complicated match for a lot of these teams, and in fact, you had even Boca, I think, winning a couple times in the early 2000s. So, but at this point, I just can't imagine a Club World Cup where the European side doesn't win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing to add. Those are correct takes. Like to me, I take more analysis and kind of just read the game a bit more diligently and more focused when it's a Copa del Rey game. Like for me, you can take more out of the games against Fuenlabrada than you can, which is really harsh definitely. If you're a Gremio fan. I'm sorry, but it's kind of it is what it is.
All right, so let's get into your questions, and we've got Shea Katiri's masterpiece oeuvre here. So let's just begin with the first section. All right, so regarding the striker transfer, I have an idea. If Benzema leaves during the summer, why not bring back Morata? All right, and so then Shea goes on to explain his feeling and take on Morata, and I don't think we need to get into too much of that. I think that for me, Shea, it's just very unlikely to try to bring back someone you just sold for especially that quantity of cash. I also feel like if Madrid's going to splash like that, they're probably going to splash for someone else. So I don't know. I don't see it happening. I think it's an interesting thought experiment, but I don't see it happening.
It's almost 0%.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love it. Like, I love Morata so much. He's like one of my first academy players that I ever really liked and followed. And I would not oppose bringing him back, but it's not going to happen because, not only is it unlikely for us to buy a player we just sold, not only is it unlikely that Benzema will be sold as long as Zidane is coach, but also that, Morata's really happy where he is. He's the main man at Chelsea. He's doing really, really well for himself. And I think he'd be a bit mad to change scenery after that because, he's turned into a world-class player at Chelsea. And, if it's working well for you and you're in a good environment with lots of good players around you, which is what he has, then, from a personal perspective, it would be wrong for him, I think, to leave that kind of environment.
I agree. Okay, so next bit from Shea. If not Morata, I'd really love for Kane to come. I'm not so sure about Neymar. He looks more of a replacement for Ronaldo than for Benzema. I'm definitely not sold. All right, so let's just I'm definitely not sold on Mbappe. Kane's style is much closer to Benzema. He's good in the air, and we are an aerial team. All right, so that's the bit about Kane. I think it's definitely a possibility that Madrid might take a run at Kane, but I also think that Kane does seem to really love his side and I think buy into the Pochettino project. I don't know. I think he's not Bale, who's like a lifetime Real Madrid fan. Mm-hmm. He's got more of that air of being a Spurs lifer.
I mean, I agree with that. But I think we should try nonetheless. I mean, I think Kane loves the club, but all players have another eye on how their career is going. And I'm not saying that we have this big chance of getting him, but I do think that we should at least try because Shea is right, in my opinion. I think he does have similarities towards Benzema. There's a lot of people that try to characterize Kane as just basically a poacher. I mean, he's not peak Benzema level of being able to link up, play, and drop deep, but he is good at it, and he's doing it more and more. If you follow Spurs fans on Twitter, if you follow Harry Kane fans on Twitter, the good ones, the ones who really objectively analyze their game, they're noticing how he's becoming more and more of a complete forward. Before, when he was growing up as a youth player, he started off as a number 10. So in my opinion, with the kind of system we play and with the player that we need to kind of play off Ronaldo and be a facilitator, I think Kane can play that role fairly well.
I'd take Kane in a heartbeat. There's no, wouldn't even hesitate. If he was available, I think eventually what the tipping point would be for him to leave Spurs. Obviously, one is money. We know that. But the other one would be if he's at a stage in his career where he just wants to win the Champions League and he doesn't see that happening with Spurs because their project isn't going according to plan, or just things don't unfold as you want them to, or maybe Pochettino somehow loses the plot. And to be we have this memory of Spurs playing amazing against us, but really in reality they're actually not that good if you zoom out and look at their season. And they're struggling in the league, and so I don't know if it's all this.
They're third in the league. They're actually. I mean, look, yes, but I don't know. I like Spurs this year. I don't know if they're gonna. I mean, the problem is that Manchester City is really just kind of the class of England right now, and no one is really close. So I don't know. I agree.
They're
Kiyan.
7th in the league.
I thought they were third.
No, they're 20. They're 21 points back of City.
Yeah, they just got beat up by City too.
I mean, the thing is Spurs. Pochettino talked about it, and it is a thing with English teams, them trying to figure out how to balance Europe and their own league schedule, and more than any other league, they haven't really figured out how to do it. And Pochettino talked about really focusing on the Champions League matches in the group stage and how that affected his league form. I mean, there's more to it than that. There's some of it's bad luck if you look at the expected goal numbers. But some of it is also then obviously other things, them not playing as well. But if you look at them compared to Man United, they're 10 points off. Which in another season, Man United would probably be top of the table right now. But City have won every single game but one, which they drew. So I think the issue with Spurs and Kane, right, is Kane and Spurs have grown really well over the past couple of seasons, but there's always been a team that's better, really, really good teams, historically. You had Conte's Chelsea, and then you had the whole Leicester thing. And then that
was their year, that Leicester year, which is...
And then you had... And now you have Manchester City that, they could just go on forever doing this, right? And I think that might be the breaking point, right? No matter how good, Spurs becomes and how much Pochettino tries and how much they try to bring in players, and no matter how much Kane improves, it always looks like there's going to be a team that's just better than them, every season. And that might break, Kane's will to stay at Spurs. But I highly doubt that's happening after this season. If it happens, it's probably 3 or 4 seasons down the line.
Yeah. I also could see eventually Pochettino being a good substitute for Zidane. Actually, I think he's quite a good coach. And I also his time at Espanyol will mean that he would certainly not coach Barcelona. So the only real step up from Spurs in Spain is Madrid, and you get the sense that he might be interested in coming back. So I don't know. I could see it. I think if I was a betting man, I'd put some money on him being the next coach after Zidane. If not,
I agree.
And it may be all the more reason for Kane to follow.
Exactly. All right, so next chunk of Shay's comment is about Mbappe. What I appreciate about Mbappe is his dribbling, which could break through the bus like Messi and Neymar, but he doesn't complement Ronaldo like Benzema does, or Kane potentially would, and it's something Real Madrid really hasn't relied on in a very long time. It's just not the Real Madrid style. But I might be wrong, and he could very well kill it. And then he talks a little bit about his feeling that people coming from outside of the top leagues don't always break well in Spain or EPL. I don't really agree. I don't know. I really rate Mbappe. He's a real deal, and he is definitely better at creating than people give him credit for. I don't know.
He would feed to Ronaldo a ton of goals. I have no doubt in my mind. He's a complete. He'll literally blitz teams so he can drift left to the left if he wants to, and he can. It's kind of similar to how we always thought, can Bale and Ronaldo play together? The answer is yes. Bale feeds Ronaldo so many chances and so many goals just by his pace, his playmaking. Like Mbappe can do that. And
a front line of Bale, Mbappe, and Ronaldo would be absolutely sex on any counterattack. Just like the speed that you would combine with those players, it's crazy.
I can't believe that there's still there's a contingent of people that still doubt Mbappe, because I didn't doubt him last season, but I could kind of understand why people would, because it still wasn't like a huge sample size. But I mean, if you look at him this year, I think it's almost erased any. He's doing it against good teams too. Like even though they lost against Bayern, that last one he played well. Against Juve last season, he was fantastic in a losing cause. Like he's not a Joe Schmo anymore.
Yeah, I mean the thing is like I would have like shared some of these concerns last season in the sense that like how good is his link up play, how good is his passing and all of that, because the Monaco side he played with, it really maximized Mbappe's like physical qualities, his pace, his ability to dribble 1-versus-1, and it didn't really show what he was as a whole player, especially in the Champions League. And so I saw this PSG thing as kind of a test, right? Because he's playing with two players in the strike force that are higher up the totem pole than him. So how is Mbappe going to adjust to that? And he's obviously going to be expected to feed them and combine with them. And if you've watched any of PSG's matches this season, even in the ones they've lost, Mbappe has been absolutely spectacular in adjusting to wherever Cavani and Neymar move and looking to feed them and combine with them. Like if you had concerns about his link-up play and his ability to pass the ball and help progress play, this season should be washing those fears away. I mean, I wouldn't say like he's, peak Benzema, like I would with Harry, same kind of thing with Harry Kane, right? Like I think there are forwards that are more specialized in doing that than Mbappe is, but he's also, is he even 19 yet? I think he's 19.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just
his ceiling is higher than Benzema's, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's learning so much, and it's clear he can adequately do these things already. So, I wouldn't have any fear about him being able to do those things, and I think he would be able to combine with Ronaldo well, considering he's doing it with two players who require a lot of touches of the ball and always want to score every single game.
Well, he rightfully gets compared a lot to Henry, right? Like, and they have a very similar game, and both of them are the type of players who kind of relish this idea of just creating chances and making plays and seeing things that no one else on the pitch sees. Like, if anyone has a misconception that he's like a 9, he's clearly not. He's versatile, and like you said, like he can play as an interchangeable piece in an attacking trio. He can drift to the left. He can blitz players on wing backs on the right side too. He can go down the middle. There's no question. Like I think he would fit like a glove. Like I don't know, I'd probably choose him over Kane, but like I would not complain with either Kane or Mbappe for that either of them next season or in the future.
Agree. Yeah, I agree. All right. So one last thing. All right. So first of all, Shea says, all right, bring back Morata. All right. One last thing. He says, I know we've touched on it before, but really, do we have any idea if there is a buyback option with Mariano? I don't think there is. I think there might be a right of first refusal clause, but my understanding is that the French league does not permit buyback clauses in contracts. So that's my understanding.
Marca had reported a while ago that there was a loophole that there is a buyback clause, but then the Lyon president came out and publicly said that there is no buyback on the deal.
So that's what I've heard also. I like I said, I think that Lyon and Madrid very well may have included when I say right of first refusal, it just means that if someone else comes in with an offer and Lyon is planning to take it, they have to also allow Madrid to match that offer. That is something that I think could possibly be there, but it's not a buyback clause, certainly. Okay, let's move on. Omar Asumani asks us, what the hell is happening with Casemiro? He was distributing the ball so calmly and effectively. And what about his powerful Croatian engine that was running in the channels all day long? Does this guy even have lungs or something?
I mean, we've seen Casemiro step up like this in many games in the past, like season and a half. So I'm not surprised. Owen made a great video to emphasize his brilliant celebration when Ronaldo scored. So you should all go check that out. And Modric was just otherworldly.
People, basically, guys. Modric is the real deal. I mean, like, I don't know. At this point, what can we say about Modric? He's just so good. We're very lucky to have him on the side.
I would also say that, again, like we've emphasized at the start of this podcast, is that we don't really take anything away from this game. We don't need this game to know that Modric is a god. We'd also say that Gremio, to be honest, they didn't make it difficult for Casemiro or any of our defenders in terms of, like, they didn't threaten on the counterattack once. There was like 1 or 2 times they got through and we just cleared it like relatively easily. So I think we made it easy for the deeper players in this game. Or they did, sorry.
All right, well then let's move on. Blake Brown asks us, how much fun is Bale to watch? My favorite footballer to watch. So, interesting question. Do you guys wear Madrid jerseys? I get crap from my friends for sporting Madrid jerseys. Just wondering if you guys wear them and if anyone says anything. I do get an a la Madrid from time to time, but most don't know what it is.
Blake,
I wear
you need to get
Madrid jerseys all the time, man. Yeah. It sounds like your friends either are fans of different clubs or don't follow soccer, and if they're the former, well, then you can razz them for whatever shitty club they support. And if they're the latter, then you need to get new friends.
You guys wear jerseys?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
especially if I'm playing like an intramurals thing or something, I always wear a Real Madrid jersey.
Okay.
I rock them occasionally. We don't have to wear a suit to work on Fridays, so I'll put one on under like a blazer. And that's fun, man. I don't know. They sit nicely. I like the last season's jersey were super dope, and this season's away jersey is really
the black one is really fucking good.
Yeah, I have a black one with Marcelo's number and name on the back for this season, so I rock that shit all the time. And I don't think no one has ever razzed me for it, but I think that's also because like I'm like 6'6", so I don't think you want to mess with me really.
I don't wear jerseys. I don't know.
Oh, Kiyan's above that.
I'm a hipster. I used to get a bunch of Real Madrid jerseys like when they came out, but I would never wear them. I just hang them up on my wall.
That's cool, man. Yeah. I collect them too, sort of. I still like wearing them. I think the one that I love the most is that a couple years ago, that black jersey with the dragon on it, and it was so dope. That one. That. All right, Christopher McCormick. The last few months haven't been straightforward, and Zidane has come under some deserved and undeserved criticism. However, his record with Madrid is impeccable. Madrid have won 12 finals in a row, 6 under Zizou. Zidane is now Madrid's second most successful manager of all time, and after a horror show under Benitez, this dressing room looks as content as it did under Carlo. I know there are some who would prefer someone like Thomas Tuchel, but I still believe Zizou's doing the best job he or anyone else could possibly do. I mean, I don't know how you can disagree with that just based on his record. You know, like this season's a little bit up and down, but guys, like Zidane in just over 2 years has become the second most successful coach in the history of Real Madrid, tied with Del Bosque. It's crazy.
Remember how he had that crazy stat? It was more trophies than losses, and then eventually we caught up and started losing. He might catch up to it again. I think he's 8 trophies now and 10 losses, if I'm not mistaken. He might catch up to it. My feeling on this is that he does get deserved and undeserved criticism, but I would say that I'm not sure if anybody would be happier. I'm not sure fans in general, just knowing Real Madrid fans, would be happier with someone like Tuchel. You know, I think they would find things to complain about him with, you know. And even with Dortmund, he fell out with the board. He lost the trust of his players, lost the trust in the room, and then he left. And I'm sure that fans would find something wrong with him here too, as they would with any manager. So, all things considered, I think Zidane's vote of confidence generally is much more positive than I've seen from previous coaches, except for maybe Ancelotti. But even Ancelotti, people really, really nitpicked with him.
Oh man, people were so bad with Ancelotti, guys. Like, I feel like we forget that the same people who are calling for Zidane's head and talking about Ancelotti were calling for Ancelotti's head. And this is just what being a Real Madrid fan is. All right. Solomon Ortiz. So this is an interesting question, Solomon. I hope we have a good answer for you. I truly believe a man like Jose Angel Sanchez has been so instrumental to Real Madrid and its success. What do you know about him? I heard a few years back that Jorge Mendes wanted him to work with him and his company/agency. He is so important to the FP and the club. Florentino Perez, I think could he be a successor to Perez for president? All right, so Jose Angel Sanchez, my understanding is he's the COO, sort of I think the equivalent title COO of Real Madrid, and he's been in charge of directing parts of the sporting and the marketing aspects for the club under Perez. I think part of the issues, I don't know quite enough about the inside baseball to know whether it was him or who has been the architect of this kind of transition and move towards buying youth products and trying to like work on developing and all that stuff. But my understanding is he's been involved in that as well. So yeah, I agree. I think he's great. And assuming that the Perez tenure ends well, it could be a good decision to go with someone who would basically continue the regime, so to speak. The question is if the Socios are going to want a clean break, then they might bring in someone like, the same way that they did when Calderon or other people came in after the first Galacticos era.
Well, Jose Angel Sanchez was also around for Calderon, so he was with Flo in his first Flo 1.0 basically, and then when Flo resigned, Ramon Calderon kept him because Jose Angel Sanchez was essentially like the one competent guy that you had at that time. And then he stayed on with Florentino, came back. Like a lot of people don't, because he's kind of like under the radar type guy, like in the shadows. But Jose Angel Sanchez, a lot of people don't know, like he's essentially Flo's right hand man, and he was the one in the negotiation room with David Beckham. Like he's the one who signed him. He did it with Michael Owen. Van Nistelrooy was the other one. Ronaldo was another one where he was in the room. Like a lot of people don't know, he does the negotiating. He's the master negotiator. And I remember that Mourinho once said that anything he needs from Real Madrid, or anything he has to talk about, whether it's like squad building, signings, or anything, he doesn't talk to Florentino about it. He meets with Jose Angel Sanchez only. So this guy that we don't really talk about often, he is essentially the guy that does so many things that we think Florentino does. And for good reason. Florentino's one of the biggest businessmen in the world. His time is divided between his construction company with Real Madrid. His agenda is insane, so he needs someone like this who's kind of like a. And by the way, I think he studied philosophy at university, but he's also a marketing genius. So a lot of these marketing things that Real Madrid does, Jose Angel Sanchez is behind. I don't know, like the question at the end about whether he would succeed Flo. I don't know if he necessarily meets those requirements about being a socio for X number of years, being born in Spain, having the bank guarantee. I don't know if he has that or not. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But so that's something that will have to be considered.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to add to that. That is a very good summary and discussion of Sanchez, I think, from someone, the person most qualified to talk about the inner workings of the club, the man who's writing a book literally on that. So
I could have also made that up. You never know. So
that's true. You could have. Yeah. But why? What's the point of that? Is also.
No, I swear I didn't make that up. I swear I didn't make that. No, actually, like this subject really interests me actually, because I come from a business background too, and I'm really fascinated by like leaders. And Jose Angel Sanchez is a really good case study of like a respectable, just genius who knows how to lead, knows how to negotiate, and humble enough that he takes like no headlines. So I found that really interesting about him generally.
That is cool. I think there's also a discussion of him in Stephen Mandis's book. So if anyone
can't remember.
All right, Essa Hariri wants to know about Bale. What's the issue with Bale? Is he fit? Why is he only playing 10 minutes? He was tackled harshly yesterday and continuing the game. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, he's fit. Everything points to him being 100% fit. It's very possible that he was actually being saved for a run in the Clasico. Obviously, he played both games, so yeah, he looks good, I think.
I'd be curious to know what Ohm thinks too, but someone, when we put out a call for questions on Facebook for the podcast, someone had asked, because Gabe, you and I talked about this a while back to say, like, is there a possibility that Bale stays at Real Madrid, but because of his health concerns, he becomes a superstar bench player, like comes in, we don't rely on him as a starter for obvious reasons, and he comes in and he just blitzes opponents when he's healthy and makes a difference. Obviously, when he's healthy, he should be starting. There's no question. But one of the questions on Facebook was essentially, do we think that Zidane has this in the plan? That's why he came off the bench the last two games. Right. It's also interesting if that's not the plan and this just happens to be him getting eased into the rotation. Who is the one who gets benched in the Clasico? Do we see the BBC for the first time in centuries, or is it Isco who takes a seat? Is it Benzema who takes a seat? I'd be curious to know what you guys think about that.
I mean, like, I would have a hard time believing that this is some kind of plan to use Bale as a super sub in the future, because like you said, if he's fit, then he's playing. I don't think Bale would be comfortable with that, right? If Bale thinks he's fit, he's gonna want to come off the bench not come off the bench, but start. And if there was somehow this situation where he was coming off the bench all the time, his agent, who has no problems talking shit to the press, would come out and whine about it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, so I just, to me, it's an interesting concept, but it's just never gonna happen unless there's some really weird injuries. It's just Bale, I don't know, there's some situation where he just can't play full 90 minutes for whatever fitness reasons. It's not gonna happen. And as for the question about who's going to start, so I do think that this is preparation for El Clasico. So I think this is, Zidane and the club doctors trying to ease Bale in, see how he's ready. I do think that it would be touch and go up till kickoff time, because the fact that he was subbed on and stuff that shows that maybe he's not 100% yet. So they're going to decide that as late as possible because they want to have as much information as possible. But if he does play, which I do think there's a high possibility he does, it's definitely Isco who's getting benched, right? Zidane, no way he's going to bench Benzema, and he would be crazy to bench Ronaldo for El Clasico. So it would probably be Isco who sits on the bench.
It sounds.
I would love to see. I mean, look, that's right. I would also love to see just him busting out that fucking Isco false nine out of nowhere, the one that we've been talking about forever with Bale and Ronaldo on the wings and Isco at false nine. That'd be so much fun, Kiyan. We've been saying that he should try this shit out forever, and of course he's not going to, but
we've been waiting. We've been waiting for that moment. I've been waiting for a long time just to have Benzema come off the bench.
For this moment all my life.
Having said that, Benzema historically shows up in Clasico.
It does, that's true.
Now you're going to have a bunch of angry people finding all the times that Benzema didn't show up and be we'll see you in the 6th minute of the 2011 Clasico. Benzema misplaced a pass here.
No, we don't get that kind of quality analysis. It's the analysis. No. The analysis would be Benzema is shit. He's always been shit. He's never scored. He's never been a goal scorer in his entire life. He was shit since he was born. Shit player. That's the kind of analysis and rebuttals we get.
Yeah, Benzema can't score a goal. That's what we get, and that's what it is. I
love our fans. I do. I really do.
Anton Hackberg is going to his first La Liga Clasico this weekend.
Nice.
He says, I'm totally hyped over the clouds about it, but I'm going there alone, and I'd love to meet up with some fellow Madridistas to make this trip less boring. So if anyone wants to hang out with Anton, man, you hit him up. That'd be so much fun. Actually, my friend Ernesto who's been on my other show a couple of times is actually going to be in Madrid all of the month of January. And he goes to games all the time, guys. He was at the Sevilla match in row 3. He was it was the closest thing I've ever seen to courtside seats. It was intense. So
Anton has 6 seats, by the way. If he has the same season ticket seats he had last year, he's in the VIP seats.
Yeah. So you guys hit Anton up, man. That sounds awesome. So, yeah, I mean, Anton, if you want, you hit me up. I'll connect you with Ernesto, and if you want to get a drink with him, he's a Madridista, but also, interesting dude. So, all right, Nick DiStefane says, I didn't see the game today, obviously not by choice, so I don't have any tactical questions, but I do have two fun ones. Good, because I don't want to talk about tactics about this game anymore. Since 2000, who has been your favorite coach for Madrid and why, other than Zidane? And if you could take any player who has played for Madrid and insert them in the current squad, who would it be and who would come out? All the best, a la Madrid. That's good questions, my dude. Since 2000, I don't know, man. I really like that Ancelotti squad. But I also feel like Ancelotti is too stuck in with his lineups to rotate enough to satisfy the extremely talented youth that is building up in this side. So maybe Del Bosque.
Yeah, it was Del Bosque for me. It took me over a decade to get over the fact that we sacked him.
I'm still bummed out about it.
Yeah, it's still like it completely altered the next like dozen years.
Yeah.
The fact that we let him go, it made no sense. And we spent the next like decade shuffling through managers, like sometimes 5 in 2 seasons.
You're telling me that Carlos Queiroz wasn't, your favorite manager?
Luxemburgo, Camacho, who came here and had a churro and then left after 10 days.
Yeah, I remember that one. That was the weirdest one, I think, Camacho.
Yeah, because it was the second time he came in as a coach. He left after a few games. He just left. He came here and he said, "Okay, I'm out of here." It was like after a few games. I don't like this.
Isn't that the time when he played 2? They played 2 games and one of them was like a devastating defeat in the Bernabeu by Barcelona, where Ronaldinho was applauded. I'm pretty sure that was Camacho.
Maybe I don't know. But either way, it was a disaster until Mourinho came.
Yeah.
Well, Pellegrino had some good record-breaking league moments, but.
And I have a lot of love for Mourinho because I think that of all the coaches, he really bled the colors on just because he loves his team winning. And of course he hates, he's going to be a dick now. But when he was at Madrid, he was all in for Madrid winning. And so much so that he was willing to embarrass himself and fight Pep Guardiola and shit. I don't know. I'm glad that they're fighting again in the Premier League. It's a real throwback. I don't know if you guys heard about that, but someone got stabbed in the tunnel in Manchester.
Jesus.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's classic, man. And he poked out what's his name's eye. Remember that?
Tito Villanova.
Yeah.
Well, for me, so number one, firstly, fuck Jose Mourinho. I fucking hate that guy. Number two, Carlo Ancelotti, without a shadow of a doubt, is my favorite coach, of all time, without question. So I take him as my favorite coach, and then because you guys discussed the Del Bosque thing, right? How sacking him just created this disaster that we weren't able to fix till Jose came in and Florentino 2.0 happened. I feel like it would have been the same. It would have been a similar thing with Ancelotti if Zidane didn't come in and basically miraculously save us. Because we go back because a lot of Madridistas have moved on from that point, and I don't blame them because that Benitez time was just this really awkward kind of horrible time where none of us. It just wasn't a good time. It was icky, and it was depressing as well. We were all looking at it we fucked up big time sacking Carlo and who are we going to get that would replace him? No good names were coming up, and I could have easily seen for 3 or 4 seasons just us shuffling through coaches, trying out youth coaches who weren't suited for the team. I think Zidane really saved us from that future, and I think with that happening, we kind of forgotten just how bad of a decision it was to sack Carlo. So he'd definitely be the manager, my favorite coach for Madrid since 2000. And then the player I'd take in, it's really interesting because we have a really, really good team right now. So it would probably be Fernando Redondo or Xabi Alonso. Casemiro's improved a lot. And his weaknesses is improving on right. But when it comes to the perfect defensive midfielders, I just look at 3 players. I look at Sergio Busquets, I look at Xabi Alonso, and then I look at Fernando Redondo. And those are my ideal defensive midfielders and deep line playmakers. And if I could bring them back, Redondo or Xabi Alonso in their prime and put them as a defensive midfielder in the side, I think it would just be a wonderful thing to watch.
Yeah.
Look, I get it, but Real Madrid does happen to have in their arsenal one of the all-time greatest strikers, so I think I'd probably go and grab Alfredo Di Stefano.
But the question is, I thought the question was since 2000. I guess it's all time.
I think it was 2000 was your favorite coach. I also took it that way, but reading, he says if you could take any player. It would probably be Di Stefano, but if we're talking since 2000, it would be the...
That's a different thing since 2000.
I in my head I was thinking 2000, but it becomes a bit difficult when you go back all the way because just for many reasons. Well, one is because you just don't know how Di Stefano, like you'd have to put him in a time machine, put him in here, and you don't know what would happen. You don't know how he would adapt, how he would figure it out. Is he physically coping with it?
You're gonna say Raul, aren't you? You're gonna say Raul.
Well, for me, it's between three players. It's Raul, it's Redondo, or it's Casillas.
Oh, Casillas. Oh, yeah. I bring back Prime Casillas.
Prime Casillas was unbelievable. But, you could also have fun with this and say, I won't pick based on fit. I'll pick based on just talent, and you can just go with Zidane. And then
I know, right? I was going to say, like,
coach and player.
Push Ronaldo up top, and then you have Zidane, Ronaldo, and Bale, and Modric, and Kroos. Crazy.
It would be a sexy team, wouldn't it? Claude Makelele also.
I'd be fascinated to know what the dynamic would look like if we had OG Ronaldo playing with this Ronaldo.
Yeah.
I don't know how it would fit, but I'd be at least interested to see how it would happen.
Let's
by the way, shout out to Carlos Queiroz, who you brought up. He's coaching an amazing Iran team apparently now, and Iran's defense is That's incredible. Cool. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I thought he was coaching Spain and Portugal in the World Cup.
Thomas Berg, please discuss Benz. I feel he looks slow and disengaged, slow with the ball, slow without the ball, lack of opening runs. Are statistics in your view backing or contradicting my feelings? Why don't you just...
I don't know what to say, right? Like, because of the Club World Cup, right? Like, it's... I personally didn't really pay attention to Benzema in those matches. Like, I just kind of looked at it and I was like, okay, there's a match going on and we're going to win, right? Like, if this is kind of coming from, like, the Club World Cup, like, I say no. Like, I'd say, like, you're reaching too much. But I'm guessing, like, this is, like, more of a seasonal thing and, like, the Club World Cup is just, like, springing that question. I don't know about all those specific things, but the idea that Benzema is declining definitely seems to be a supported fact by this point by the eye test and like the statistics. Just looking at expected goals, even going to like simpler statistics like the number of chances he's creating, it's been declining since the 2014-15 season. There's a number called expected goal buildup. And so XG buildup, and what it does is it like looks at all the players involved in a passing sequence that leads to a shot, and then it evaluates the XG of that shot, and then you basically add all those numbers up, and then you remove the person who made the shot and the person who made the assist for that shot, and you look at all the players who happened before that. So it basically evaluates the aggregate of a player's ability to be involved in sequences that lead for a shot. So it like evaluates players like Kroos and Modric, who are not going to show up on more traditional statistic sheets. And if you look at his XG buildup, it's not great. Like, I don't have the figures with me right now. If you go to understat.com, you can look at it for tons of players. But if you look at Ronaldo's, it's like he's like 0.5 XG buildup, which is crazy. And Messi's like at 0.6 or something to just give you a comparison there. And I think Benzema's at like 0.29 or something. So it just kind of shows you, right? Like, what we look at Benzema as being really good at is something he's just not excelling as much in anymore. So I guess you could say he's declining, right? But I still think, the whole slow and disengaged thing, I don't know about that. Like, because disengaged like is another way of saying lazy to me. And I've spent a lot of time and effort saying that he's not lazy because I disagree with that idea. I think he's putting in a lot of effort. He's just not as good as he used to be, which is what happens with all players.
Yeah, that's about right. It's a good assessment.
All right, we have a couple more non-guaranteed. We're just going to do it quick. This is a long-ass show anyways, so... Sajid Reyes says, "Hey guys, it's been a week since I had the most amazing experience in Spain. Watched 2 minutes at the Bernabeu and also 2 matches, at the Bernabeu, and also visited the enemy at the Camp Nou. Now I'm suffering a hangover and missing the majestic spectacles at the Bernabeu. Best wishes to Kiyan, who's in Spain at the moment and was in the same stand as myself for the Sevilla game. Enjoy, brother." Kiyan, everyone wants you to hope you're having a good time.
Well, I appreciate that. I love you guys a lot. And Sajid, I hope you had a blast. Sounds like you did. I'm happy for you, man. I obviously we had no idea we were going to be that close to each other. Otherwise, we would have met up and just exchanged some pleasantries. But at any rate, thanks, man, and hope you can make it out again.
All right, last one. Naif Ahmed. I missed the Club World Cup games. I was in Canada. Well, you were in Canada. Well, Kiyan was not in Canada. Interesting. I'm sorry, guys. I'm tired. But my question is, do you think Barca will give us the Guard of Honor? I think they should. Of course you think they should. They won't. No chance. 0% chance. There was never a chance they were going to do it. They're not going to do it. No way.
There's reports coming out, right? Like Kiyan posted on Facebook and Twitter, like there's basically like a less than 1% chance that they're going to do it. Or if you even like had that kind of like probability in your mind, it's not happening. And I mean, does it really surprise you at this point? If there's one thing Barcelona aren't, it's class. Like the whole Mezqueun club shit. Like the only people who believe that now are Barcelona fans themselves, and even then, not that many Barcelona fans. Like it's all been exposed as like a fraud over the past 3 or 4 seasons. They're
more than a club, though. They are putting, in bed with like the despots and multi-millionaire oil tycoons. I mean, look what they actually are. They're more than a club. They're a corporation. They're a worldwide international corporation that cares only about making money. And when they say shit like Mezqueun Club, that's a fucking branding. It's meaningless. They might as well be fucking saying better ingredients, better pizza. Like fucking nothing, okay? So just forget about it.
It's them using the political issue of like Catalan independence to build their brand.
Yeah.
If you're like a person who like thinks about like corporatism and capitalism in like a type of like cynical sense in the way it uses like political messages, well, here's an example,
right.
For the people, yeah.
The Mezqueun Club shit is the same thing as like Starbucks putting like love is love like message on their cups or whatever. Like it's nothing. It's nonsense, and don't get suckered in by it. Sorry, that's been building up for me for a long time, ever since they put the UNICEF thing on their jerseys, and instead of giving the money that they could charge another club and thing for that sponsorship, then giving all that money to UNICEF, they instead gave UNICEF the love of putting that on the front of their shirt instead of actually donating the like $50 million a year they would get from a front of the jersey sponsorship to UNICEF.
Yeah, all that's true. Barcelona is a scum, but the report was like first couple hours ago. Guillermo Amor, who, if you remember, Barcelona player in the '90s, who played for Barcelona, and he's now the director of institutional and sporting relations of Barcelona. He publicly said that Barcelona would not be giving Real Madrid a pasillo. So confirmation. Shocking. I mean, they've done it before, but for
they did it before when Madrid won the Liga in the previous game.
Yeah, Club World Championship, not a chance. They would care. Nor should they. We wouldn't either.
I don't think Madrid would give them a pasillo for winning the fucking Club World Cup.
I mean, the thing is, they expect. I think like there was like a tweet by like it was just tweet by someone like this showed Real Betis giving Barcelona the Guard of Honor after they won the Club World Cup. So it's like. That's the thing, right? Like Barcelona expected another team to do it, but they're not going to do it. So, I mean, it's like I would get it if like it was like, oh, it's just a Club World Cup, but it happened to them, so there's a bit of hypocrisy.
They would do it to another team. Like I bet you, a theoretical world, let's say Deportivo La Coruña wins the Club World Championship, they would do it for them.
Yeah.
Whatever. I decided that this is just not something I'm going to care about because the game itself just got to win the game itself. That's all that matters. And literally, that's it. So we'll be back. We have tons more content coming up this week. Kiyan has Churros y Tacticas tomorrow. Just remind Diego that we shit on Barcelona in this podcast. That I called Mezque un Club the same thing as the Papa John's slogan. After that, Kiyan is going to be back on Tuesday with Alex Kirkland, who rules. So that's going to be a great show. Everyone should check that out. We'll be back later in the week for your midweek show, previewing the Clasico, and then we'll break down the Clasico next weekend.
Yeah, can I do a couple of housekeeping things? Anyone listening, especially if you're a patron, so the podcast with Alex Kirkland is going to be El Clasico mailbag. So submit your questions about El Clasico, and Alex and I will go through and answer them. So if you're a patron, go through on Patreon. And if you're not a patron, just look out on our Facebook and Twitter. I'll put out a call for questions at some point. But also, we need to do patron shoutouts because we've missed them the last couple of weeks.
Go for it.
So patreon.com/Managing Madrid is where you can donate anywhere from $1 to $100 a month. And any contribution you give us, we much appreciate. You get access to bonus shows, midweek shows, which are just like this, but they happen midweek instead. And you can also get different rewards based on your pledge. So shout out to these specific patrons, because if you pledge $10 or more, you get a specific shout out on the podcast. All right. This is gonna be tough to say all in one go. So Nick DeStefane, Frederick Sundros, Doug Chisholm, Leon Stavronakis, Bjorn Salvador, John Fernandez, Said Mahad, Sergio Monleon, Red Bat, Anthony Vasquez, Yahya Ibrahim, Guled Ismail, Nick Ribeiro, Eric Rogers, Sheikh Hatiri, Andrew Gomez, Anton Hackford, Jimmy Obey, Daniel Smith, Solomon Ortiz, and Jeanette. Jeanette is our newest one. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, welcome. That's awesome. And if anyone still wants to claim that following from Managing Madrid Twitter handle, right, shoot us an email with your Twitter handle, and we will follow you. And if you have something that you want us to retweet, we probably could figure that out also, as long as it's not like something terrible.
As long as it's not your crazy bad costume to a Halloween party.
Oh, hell yeah. So yeah, check out that stuff that's coming up. I'm sure be joking about the costume stuff on Let's Talk Football this week, so you can check us out there too. All right, guys, until midweek, Kiyan, a la Madrid.
A la Madrid.
A la Madrid.